Inside the chambers right now, by the way, it looks as if one of our producers there says the House is actually back in recess and members have been told to stay seated. Over in the Senate, where reporters aren't even allowed to have their phones in the chamber, but one of ours does, Capitol Police have told senators to stay away from the doors in the Senate chamber. They are instructed to stay put. Many of them are on their phones down in the well. They escorted out Vice President Pence, who is in the line of succession, who obviously is a more high-profile leader who brings with him much more protection when he comes to the Capitol. Other senators are still in the chamber. In fact, one aide is now just telling me this, guys, over a text, that members are being told to, quote, get under the chairs in the House chamber. This is a aide to a member of Congress who tells me, again, members are being told, quote, get under the chairs in the House chamber. You might be wondering, why can't we show you images of that? Because every time the House goes into recess, they turn off the cameras. And so we can't see that.
The situation has reached a dire point where the U.S. Capitol is now in lockdown. Both the House and Senate, which are tasked with, according to U.S. code, to count the electoral votes. That is the final step in the processing of Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. After being incited into violence by the president, the current president, Donald Trump, the supporters have now stormed the United States Capitol. The mayor of the District of Columbia has just issued an extraordinary curfew, 6 p.m. tonight, that will no doubt be enforced has to be enforced by the Guard. The Secretary of the Army has previously signed an order that more than 300 National Guard soldiers would assist the District of Columbia. No word at this point whether that number has been increased or whether there is an ask for additional National Guard soldiers. This is the nightmare scenario. This is the reason that 10 former secretaries of defense who have served both Republican and Democratic presidents unitely under the direction of Dick Cheney, who by many liberals and Democrats is considered a pariah, actually pushed to have them do this, to say the military will not get involved. It should not get involved in our electoral process. But this type of antagonizing event brings real nervousness among all the powers of government because of the concern about what it suggests. This is a democracy. Protest is protected and allowed, but violence is not. And there are concerns among a number of officials about how these images will be used by our foreign adversaries about what's happening. Ed? I'm
being told by a senator over a text message that they are evacuating. That's all I'm being told. Forgive me. There are conflicting reports that senior leadership may have also been evacuated.
Let's bring in our chief congressional correspondent, Nancy Cordes. Nancy, you're on the Hill. Tell us what you're hearing.
Well, Norah, it's at a scene of utter chaos inside the Capitol building. Once these protesters stormed the doors and got actually inside the Capitol itself, reporters and lawmakers alike were barricading themselves in various rooms and offices and hideaways, locking the doors. And we actually saw staffers inside the Senate chamber going like this, basically signaling to the senators who were inside the chamber to get down. So that really corresponds with what Ed has heard from folks over in the House chamber who say that they're being told to get under their chairs. Now, staffers inside the Capitol have just gotten a pretty extraordinary message from U.S. Capitol Police. Let me read to you what they're being told to do right now in the face of this breach. They're being told to move inside your office or the nearest office, take emergency equipment and visitors, close, lock, and stay away from external doors and windows. And if you are in a public space, find a place to hide or seek cover. They're even being told to remain quiet and silence their electronics. So essentially, what staffers here in the U.S. Capitol today, here in the United States of America, are being told to do is to hide, stay silent, and avoid notice from anyone who has stormed the Capitol. We've never seen anything like this, Norah, and it's especially striking because this is a Capitol building that has been devoid of any members of the public for the past 10 months. The only people who have been allowed inside the Capitol building are the lawmakers, a few of their aides, some reporters, and then, various workers who clean the building and the like. Nobody else. And now suddenly we're seeing it being breached by hundreds of people. It is a really shocking sight. And you even saw Chuck Grassley. He is the senior-most Republican in the Senate. Therefore, he is considered the president pro tem. He is in the line of presidential succession. And when the U.S. Capitol was breached, when the protesters got inside, we saw him be rushed out by security because, he's considered, just like the vice president, a very important person who's in the line of succession and needs to be protected.
Nancy Cordes, what is the next scenario to protect the leadership of Congress?
Norah, that's an excellent question, because while the U.S. Capitol Police is very experienced, D.C. Police, of course, extremely experienced with big protests, they don't have much experience dealing with something like this, where protesters have really gotten inside a government building and no one really knows what their intentions are now. You know from covering Washington for so long, Norah, that every senator has what's known as a hideaway in the Capitol, a little room where they can do their work when they are in the Capitol rather than back across the street in one of the Capitol office buildings. And so I imagine that many senators have been urged to seek refuge inside those hideaways, and that Senate leaders, who are the only people who actually have proper offices with staff inside the Capitol building itself, have been escorted back to those offices if they can get there safely. Remember, these halls are now filled with protesters, so getting a leader from the Senate, for example, out of the Senate chamber and into their own office could be very challenging. But if they can, they'd probably escort them to their offices and lock the doors.